Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Growth Shift. Thanks for joining me today. Today, I'm excited to welcome Nicole and Brent from AboveBoard. They are the CEO and CFO. Nicole and Brent, thank you so much for joining me today. We will be kicking off today by learning about their background, then immediately exploring the biggest trends, successes, and challenges they're seeing in the industry.
Brent and I started a company called AboveBoard about 3 years ago, and we were going after a very stale category in the alcohol industry known as liqueurs. Neither one of us have any experience in the alcohol industry, but a little bit about myself. I was in the real estate industry in the escrow aspect, specific straight out of college. So in the 90s, I went from graduating and going into an industry that was all experience based, but started as a receptionist innocently.
Yeah, and one of the things that's really helped her too is, working with all the different personalities that come in the real estate industry. Um, Hi, I'm Brent. My background is in technology. I was in the geospatial industry for 25 years. And so my role, although I am currently operating as the CFO, I'm more of a COO. I'm really all about our operations, our strategy, do take care of the finances, but I'm kind of leading how our systems are set up in the back end, making sure that we're a scalable corporation. This is a really big year for us where we are planning to expand, and we'll touch on that here in just a little bit. And although we don't have experience in the alcohol industry, we knew that there was a gap in what products were available, and no one serves sugar-free or has sugar-free menus. And so we're really here to change that.
What inspired the creation of AboveBoard, and what makes
Frustration.
it different?
Yeah.
We were a little dismayed with the offerings. There's all these beautiful craft cocktail scene in San Diego. The restaurants are amazing, and it just always left us a little disappointed that there wasn't anything on the menu that aligned with our health goals. We try to avoid sugar at all costs, and we found the options extremely limited when we were dining out. The skinny margarita movement spoke volumes about what people are trying to accomplish when they're dining out and trying to control, again, their sugar intake.
Yeah. And it's a fallacy too, right? Because
Mm,
although most bars are using agave to sweeten the skinny margaritas,
hmm
there's still 85% the same amount of sugar
Cane
that's
sugar.
that's in their regular margarita. So
Mhm.
it's termed skinny, but if you're diabetic or you're on keto, you can't have it, right? And so we knew that there had to be a better way. So during COVID, we started testing all kinds of different sweeteners, and we landed on two plant-based sweeteners, allulose and monk fruit, and they're absolute game changers. You get the sweetness, but you don't get the sugar spike or crash or the diet aftertaste. Yeah.
That's fascinating.
So it really just
So,
started here in our kitchen. So we started playing around with all the sugar substitutes because we had been trying them in due course, over the, gosh, last 10 years, just trying
Yeah.
them all as they came out. The aspartame, the erythritol, the sucralose, the agave, and just trying to find something that made a difference. And it really, again, wasn't until we stumbled across allulose. Actually, we found it in granular at Trader Joe's and brought it home and made a simple syrup. And it was this aha moment for
Yeah.
us.
We looked at each other. We're like, this is it. This is really it.
Wow.
So
so how did you know when you found it that that was marketable?
just a
Being
few
sweet,
things. Yeah.
right?
So it had the viscosity. It had most importantly, it had the flavor without the diety aftertaste. That was the biggest thing for us, right? Because when you drink like diet soda or you try other sugar-free products, you get that in sugar alcohols like aspartame, erythritols, you get that diety aftertaste that kind of lingers. And when we made this simple syrup and we realized that, it didn't have that diety aftertaste, but it had the consistency, it had the sweetness and everything that we wanted,
Mhm.
we knew the sky was the limit in terms of what we could develop. And from there, we developed, gosh, probably 20 different expressions of cocktail syrups and liqueurs. And then the other side of that, so my tech background, I love data and analytics. And so we started researching nationwide. And what we found was no one else is making sugar-free liqueurs. Bailey's did a light version, but it still has, 10 to 15 grams of sugar
Yeah.
per
For
shot.
sure.
per shot.
ounce.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was like still a lot, right? It was still a lot of sugar. So yeah, that was kind of the aha moment for us when we realized what we had on our hands.
So with your kitchen lab for mixing everything, how did you get it to market?
Yeah, we started doing research.
So we originally thought we were going to be a cocktail syrup company going direct to consumers with this line that we hired a food scientist to help us perfect. So we started with the simple syrup, as Brent mentioned, and then we did the other expressions. And it was about halfway through that journey from kitchen concept to production where we pivoted away from the non-alc cocktail syrup line into the alcohol industry. And that came about as I was making, I think it was a coffee syrup or something. And it was just one of those like, well, I'm going to put this in alcohol. Why wouldn't I put this in alcohol? And then we did a lot of research and realized that really no one has ever challenged liqueurs over the last 100 years. And these are all traditional flavors we've come to know and love. Examples being Cointreau for orange, Kahlua for coffee, cream for an Irish cream. And I called basically every distillery here in San Diego to see if they would help me blend and rectify these syrups into a Nutri-Grain spirit. And I was met with a no. Found my phone calls leading me all the way up to the coast. A gentleman named Simon, who owned Portuguese Bend Distillery up in Long Beach on the promenade, picked up the phone. I kind of told him what my vision was. And I was like, can you help me with this? And he was like, hell yeah. I was like, oh my gosh, okay. Wasn't expecting that because I'd gotten so many no's, but he really got it quickly. And he walked me through all the basic processes I would need to go through. This is where my escrow experience came in, as you can imagine, figuring out which,
Compliance.
yeah, what
Yeah,
needed to be
right.
done first and starting to tackle the TTB and all that. So um, that was, again, about 2.5 years into our journey with AboveBoard.
Yeah, and then from there we knew we needed to grow and scale, and so we ended up getting in with Corning and Company,
Mm.
who used to be the country's largest whiskey distillery back in like the 60s, 70s. And they've since really tried to get back to their old true form. And they brought in a great guy, Samuel Long, as their CEO. And so we started working with them about 2 years ago and really started to build our footprint. We started in San Diego as a test market, really around just getting market feedback, getting consumer feedback, you know, understanding how to implement this in restaurants and bars, which is just difficult, right? No one wants to change their menu, and this is something, a new concept. And
Yeah.
so what we ended up doing is when we approach on-premise locations like bars and restaurants, we will create a no and low cocktail menu for them, and we'll give them the recipes, and we'll have 4 or 5 different cocktails, and it can be QR code driven. We just say, hey, buy a mix case, try this out for 30 days and just try the market
Hmm.
feedback, see how your customers are responding to it. And every establishment that has done that, they've actually reordered within 30 days. So it's been a really effective process.
Yeah.
We've been really scrappy as
Yeah.
far as getting, younger kids to do demos and sales, and so far so good. It's worked really well. In our first year, we got into over 100 accounts, and we got into Ralph's. We're in all the Ralphs throughout San Diego, Total Wine and More, Hyatt, Omni. Yeah, it's really going really well.
Brent, what major trends are shaping the alcohol industry now, this year?
Yeah, you've probably seen a rise in no and low, mocktails. Let's start there, right? So non-alcohol drinks. There's certainly a trend towards that, and we get asked a lot, do we feel that is threatening to what we're doing? And we don't. We see it as a same movement. Consumers are really they're really conscious about what they're putting in their bodies, right? They want clean labels, they want transparency, right? And so seeing that movement, even with mocktails, what you're noticing though, they still have a lot of sugar in them. So we're actually working with a location here that does all non-alc cocktails. They have a little bar, and so they're using our simple syrup to make them sweet, but without the sugar. So there's certainly a big movement towards that. You see consumers as well. If you look at the alcohol industry as a whole, there is a decline in sales, across beer, wine. COVID kind of changed that a little bit, right? You saw more people buying. The spike in online sales has been tremendous. A lot more people are buying and making cocktails at home, so that has been a big trend as well. We feel that early on we thought we were a little early for what we were trying to accomplish, but we feel
Mm.
like we're really hitting it at the right time.
Yeah,
You
the whole
know,
movement with transparency, right? Thinking about like the additive free tequila. It's like, wait,
right?
everyone's really shocked by this whole, discovery that what we thought was 100% agave truly does have additives, and some very popular brands. And to that degree, the timing couldn't be better. The company above board, right? It means full transparency. Everything's on the table. And we support our health claims with nutritional panels on the bottle, and we have our
That's right.
FAQs clearly outlined on the website because we think it's really important. People should know what they're putting in their bodies.
Absolutely.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Are there any regulatory or compliance changes affecting the industry?
Well, in California specifically, there's one that comes to mind. A lot of the liquor stores here love to pay by cash or check.
Mm.
Starting in January 2026, that is no longer going to be an option. So all establishments, when purchasing alcohol from business to business, it has to be done digitally. So no more checks, which is a great thing for us.
Sure, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's jump into some of the successes that have helped shaped Above Board's momentum. How has Above Board evolved from its initial launch to where it is today?
Well, it evolved just through us implementing it on-prem and off-prem. So obviously in San Diego, there's a tremendous amount of liquor stores, gourmet grocery stores, restaurants, and bars. So there's four different like business types, if you will. So with each one, it comes a different approach, right? So with the grocery stores and the liquor stores, it's kind of like, let's look at this stale dated category, liqueur. You imagine yourself standing in the grocery store and trying to find a way to make, a sugar-free margarita or what have you. So helping the owners of these establishments see that this category hasn't been challenged, that there's finally an alternative that people are asking for, helped us move quite quickly because it does refreshen that component of their establishment.
Yeah, and it opens an untapped revenue stream for bars and restaurants, right? That were typically drinking, say, a vodka soda or tequila
Mm,
soda. They're not asking for drinks to be made, with low sugar because they know what they're going to get. They know it's the cocktails are going to be unbalanced, and so they're ordering what they know that they can stick to. With Above Board, now you have a wide array of different cocktails that you can make that have different flavoring, and it's still, keeping you within your health goals. So I
mhm.
think that's something that has been really big and impactful
Yeah.
with our implementations.
Also, the restaurants are seeing that because our liqueurs go into so many cocktails, it allows them to move a lot of base spirits that maybe aren't moving. So if they have a rum or a gin that is just sitting, let us pair it with Above Board on this separate no and low sugar cocktail menu, and they start to see how it can benefit them, some of their pain points that we're learning about.
Yeah, sure. What accomplishments from the past year are you most proud of?
I think getting into Ralph's, that was a really big step for us because it is a national corporation, right? So they're under the same umbrella as Kroger's, which is more of a east and middle of the country, and Ralph's is mainly just in California. That was really big for us. We have applied to several corporate RFPs, so where they bring on new brands every year. Hyatt is a really big one, so we've been implemented into 5 different Hyatt locations right now. And we're looking at implementing a better for you beverage movement within the Hyatt. So we're hoping to get some good news within the next month about states
Yeah.
and how many locations. So
Hmm.
that's been really exciting for us. And yeah,
And with regards to how that's evolved, so we were blessed enough to meet with the beverage director up at the rooftop in Oceanside and to learn he was actually the national beverage director. That introduction is what opened this whole better for you beverage movement that he envisions, and not only being in the restaurants, but potentially on their spa menus, and also utilizing our sugar free simple syrup for the whole mocktail movement. So you can see there's a few avenues that Above Board helps with. The meeting with the gentleman, the national beverage director, also allowed us to go directly to these Hyatt locations with a nod, if you will, from him and start working with each individual Hyatt because they do have autonomy because there's so many restaurants within a hotel or what have you. So
Mhm.
that's been a huge part of our growth that we're very proud of.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
the last thing I'll add to that, Jennifer, is we're also raising funds. So we're trying to close. We're trying to raise 1.4 million. Just this weekend, we opened up our crowd fund, and it's on WeFunder. So it's wefunder.com/AboveBoard, and so we're really excited. What we love about that is we don't anticipate getting all of our funding through the crowd fund, but we lowered the minimum investment to $100, and we really want our customers to get involved, right? So, if you invest in something, you're going to tell your friends about it. You're going to buy product, right? And so, we're hoping that we see growth and acceleration from that perspective because it's a great way to get in early, and it has a lot of upside for what we're doing, especially with our growth coming in 2026.
Yeah, that sounds super exciting. Success rarely comes without a few bumps along the way. What have a few of those bumps looked like for Above Board?
Gosh, where to
Some of
start?
the hardest parts.
Yeah, we have a long list. We want to help startups, when we make it and we're looking back 5 years from now, we have written down a lot of lessons learned, things to avoid. It's so hard as a startup because you're kind of going in with blinders. You don't know where to start. You have a lot of people with their hands out saying, "Yeah, we can help you," but everyone wants money, right? And so it's challenging trying to understand where to play, how to navigate those things. And so compliance is a big thing, right? Everything, it's something I heard in the corporate days too. It's like everything takes 3 times as long as you expect and it costs 3 times the money. It's like construction, it's like anything else in life, right?
So, what are some of the biggest challenges you guys are facing right now, besides the compliance, I guess?
Say just being able to scale, we really need investment at this point. With these big potential contracts coming in, we set ourselves up for success. We put a lot of our money into the actual product, trusting the process. And we could never be in a situation where we're letting someone down who's betting on us, sees the vision, wants to take it far and fast. So we, again, we're very strategic in how we spent our first what was it, a SBA loan? Yeah,
Yeah.
we got our first loans. Up till then, we've been self-funded. Everything costs so much money, and because of the sales, we've been able to keep it afloat because it's continuing to stoke the machine, but that is not scalable.
Long term. Yeah. And I guess the other aspect of that is that when you think about scaling, a lot of problems and things come into play, right? Like sourcing materials. That's been something that we've had trouble with. We get our bottles, our labels, our boxes all from China. When this year issues going on between the US and China and the tariffs were 145%, that was scary because we couldn't order bottles then, right? We're back down to 20%, so it's more palatable, but you constantly have to be flexible, pivot, find different solutions.
Hmm.
Another issue we had, the coffee extract that we use for our coffee liqueur, they basically said their minimums now are 500 gallons, which is basically it's $56,000 to place an order with them, right? And for a startup, it's like, are
It's a
you
lot.
serious? Like we've been using your product for 2 years and no email, no like, hey, we've had to because of demand, we've had to change. So we had to pivot, right? And we had to find a different coffee extract. So that's something that I think, in our space, you're constantly going to have to do, especially when you have a lot of different expressions. So it's something to be considerate of, but it pushes timelines for when you're going to do your next production run. Allulose was in super high demand.
Hmm.
So we actually were on hold from buying more allulose for, 5 months. So if something happened during that time and someone placed a big order, it's like, what do you do?
Right.
So there's all these constant challenges that you face and I think the main thing for, new startups is just remain flexible, remain calm. There's always another solution. You just have to work through it.
Yeah. There's so many pieces to that puzzle that need to line up just perfectly to make everything roll as you want it to.
Sure.
So let's shift gears into the future. What's on the horizon for the brand? Where do you want to be 6 to 12 months from now?
Yeah, so we're planning to expand in a few states this year. A lot of it, the The number of states and the locations will largely depend on when investment comes in. We just got into the state of North Carolina. That's great. Earlier this year, we also got into DC. And so in addition to those states, we're looking at New York, New Jersey, Florida, Nevada, Arizona, Colorado, and Texas. Those are really our target states that and we're looking to move towards. And so, but it all costs money, right? You have to have boots on the ground, distribution throughout the country. Then you think about logistics, like, okay, all of our bottles are made in Northern California. For all of our East Coast stuff, do we find a warehouse that's kind of central in the East Coast in North Carolina or somewhere like that, right? So there's a lot of considerations that have to be taken in place. January, we're also launching our sugar-free Aperol, which is going to be amazing. It tastes so great. So many customers have asked for it. So that's certainly on the horizon. And then in addition to the Aperol, we have 4 other products that are market ready. We could launch them whenever. We have a melon for Midori, raspberry for Chambord, a hazelnut for Frangelico, and an almond for Amaretto. So we do have
Great
a long-term
flavors.
vision of where this is going. Yeah, I can't wait until we launch the Chambord, the raspberry. That's my favorite. But so there's a lot of great things that we have on the horizon. We just want to continue to grow and, grow a great team across the country and really just see this thing through. I think the biggest driver of our growth is going to be getting the capital we need to scale.
Sure. And when you talk about moving into other states, is that in distributors or is that in restaurants, bars, all of the
So
above?
it would be, so you would have to have it, well, some states, we did self-distribution in DC and North Carolina. It's really hard for startups to go from one state to national, right? The big distributors are out there. They won't even talk to you unless you're large and nationwide. And it's like, how do you do that without the partnership, without the distributors? So we, within the alcohol industry, each state has their own blue laws. So it's like working with 50 different countries, right? Every state has their own requirements. And so, it's a challenge. Each state that we go into, we will target key markets within that state. It wouldn't be a full statewide implementation. So for example, in North Carolina, we're starting in Raleigh, Charlotte, and then the coastal region with like Wilmington, Outer Banks. And so those will be our 3, kind of test areas within the state. You're targeting liquor stores, you're targeting restaurants and bars, hotels, golf courses, but we're trying to plug and play what we've developed here in San Diego and Southern California into each of these new markets. Yeah.
Sure. Well, as we bring things to a close, what's one thing you want listeners to take away from this conversation?
That you can still enjoy yourself and have cocktails. That is one of the things that, we want people to understand. And when you say sugar-free anything, most guests and customers are
a little leery.
Skeptical, right?
Yeah,
because we've been punished of, a lot of sugar-free products that just don't taste good. So we hope people will give us a shot. Everyone that tastes, everyone that tastes our products, they're like, oh my gosh, this is so amazing. I can't believe it's sugar-free. So, and, we live an active lifestyle. We love to get outside. We love to have a good time. And we still like to enjoy cocktails.
It's just being
they're
mindful,
fun, right?
not compromising on your health goals. We shouldn't have to.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, Brent and Nicole, thank you so much for sharing your insights. Before we wrap up, where can our listeners connect with you and learn more about AboveBoard?
So all of our handles are Drink Above Board. So that will lead you to our website, our Instagram handle,
Facebook, LinkedIn,
Pinterest. We just got onto Pinterest,
TikTok.
So we got Drink Above Board for all the handles is the answer.
Yeah.
But we are available for purchase through our website into 48 states. So that's a great thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
And then for our Southern California listeners, you can look on Insta and just type in AboveBoard and we're sold through a lot of local establishments here for same day delivery. Otherwise, you can just have it shipped through our website. And through the month of December, if you use code ROSE, you get 25% off. Is it 25?
It is.
25% off.
Yeah.
Everybody loves a discount.
That's right.
Well, thank you so much for joining me. And for our audience, thank you for tuning in to The Growth Shift today. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Jennifer. Appreciate you having us.
Nice to meet you.
My pleasure. Thank you.